Okay, I
Hey,
like
and
that
that's our
bumper.
that's our new 80s opening. I've been actually working on other openings because the one that we've been using for the past 23 sessions now has just been really annoying me. Actually, I've done another bumper. Here, I'll show you the other new bumper, and then we'll introduce ourselves to who's ever not watching us right now. So let me go ahead and show this one.
Oh yeah.
For the 80 was one.
Yeah, all right. So this one needs a little bit of work, but
I still like it. I can tell where you lifted from the creature features opening.
Yeah, oh yeah, I completely stole that. And now that I have
No
this
shame whatsoever. I do the same thing.
And now that I have this nifty piece of software called, where is it? VidJuice, which kind of sounds like a weird thing. But
we're back to 70s porn again, aren't we?
No. So what VidJuice does is it allows you to go to YouTube or any place that has a video and basically rip the video. It's used a lot by YouTubers who do like review videos and things like that. So you're not just sitting there playing the one off of YouTube, that you can actually just pull it to MP4. Or if there's a background piece of music on there that you want, you can actually then go ahead and pull just the MP3 of it. So it's actually kind of a neat little bit of software. And that's what I get when I continue to go on like AppSumo, when I'm just like, ooh, there's something I can buy for a lifetime that I might use once. But
there you go.
But Rachel, thank you for joining us. And all right, so I'm JC. I'm the host. I'm here in cool Neo Tokyo, or at least I'm pretending to be in Neo Tokyo, because behind me, when I move my head, you can kind of see that's not happening. But other than that, I am Grindhouse Media. I am the host of the show. Tonight, again, we have with us our gang is back, actually, although Gwen was on the last episode where we had our special panel, which thank you to everyone who showed up and gave us the subscribes and the likes. That is really awesome. And Gwen, I apologize for being mean about Canada and
You were mean about Canada?
Oh, that's fine.
Say Canada likes it.
No more maple syrup for you.
Hey, we have maple syrup in Vermont too, pal, which is actually next to Canada. So I guess that, it's all kind of in a thing and such. All right. Anyway, and Gwen, thank you for joining us again. And Bryce, as always, you're looking a lot clearer. So your molecules aren't vibrating to give you that.
Nearly. Well, that's because I went to completion.
Well, this is turning into a very different podcast than I envisioned.
Yeah, well,
don't know what you're talking about.
We're not monetized yet. All right. So anyway, let us begin. There's a lot of topics we have today, and if I can remember them all, that would be awesome. So anyway, let us go to the first one. So you get to see another new bumper because I love doing these things.
Ponies and 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 rainbowy ponies and sunshiny ponies and
I wonder what we're going to talk about.
I wonder. I like that bumper.
Yeah. And I used less than 30 seconds of the song, but I need to put in the show notes that was a song called Ponies by One-Eyed Doll. They're a goth band out of Texas. But no, it just sums it up. Just kind of ethereal music with evil clowns tearing a doll apart, and that's WotC to me. You know, we
Yeah.
should. So anyway, my couple of things on WotC that I actually took away the website that I had up on the side of me, but I can remember it from asking it again. So the first one, and I don't need to. Oh, here we are. So the first one, I don't need to go too far, is Wizards of the Coast announced that, I believe if they haven't already, they're going to get rid of the name Witch. They're also going to get rid of Druid and Shaman.
Really?
Yeah. So initially from Magic the Gathering, so those they're going to drop those cards, but you know, it's only time before that sort of thing kind of crawls itself into Dungeons and Dragons, right?
Like, Druid isn't a racial thing. Like, there are multiple different cultures of Druids. Like, I'm Celtic. Like, we have Druids of our own, although, like, every single bit of history has been erased of them because they were an oral tradition and, you know, Christianity happened.
But I guess the point that they're trying to make, which is a very stupid point, Wizards of the Coast, and I'm not ashamed to say it, is they so yes, there are real life religions of witches, Wiccans, pagans who call themselves witches, whatever. There are also, yes, there are orders of druids still around. And there are shaman. I mean, if you go to, you know, any South American country or just any country in general that has a tribal.
I'm pretty sure we have shamans in Winnipeg.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
There are shamans in North America. All you have to do is go to basically any Native American tribe, and you're likely going to find a shaman sitting there somewhere.
But who decides this? So I've read articles on this and other people talking. And a lot of people who have replied are either Native Americans or I guess Native Canadians. I don't know what term you use for your indigenous people up there.
I don't know. We call them natives.
A lot of people call them the first people.
Yeah, the first people.
Indigenous, natives.
But the thing is, if you talk to any of them about what's going on, they're just like, why I'm not offended. Why would I be offended? Or that's kind of cool that they do that because that's representation, you know.
Exactly.
But so who is it in Wizards that sits there and determines these things that can change? Like whoever must be doing is either very high up or there is a gaggle of them who have the ear of WotC and tell them that this is all a good idea.
It's the same person that hired the Pinkertons to go after that one guy.
It's the same person who banned a bunch of white cards that specifically targeted black cards.
Wait, go back. I am unaware of this.
Yeah, so like a couple of years ago, WotC banned a bunch of white cards in Magic the Gathering that specifically targeted black cards, and but black cards that targeted white cards were fine, and any other card that targeted any other card was fine. But like for some reason, it was only white cards that targeted black cards were considered like bad. And it's like, you do realize that the white cards aren't tied to race, right?
Well, you know, there was a big hullabaloo a few years back where somebody raised heck because a celestial object was called a black hole.
It's almost like the color black doesn't exist.
It's almost like people have no common sense whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
That's, yeah, I mean, it's the whole same thing with like orcs, right? Well, we can't kill orcs because they represent black people. Like, really? Like, who the hell even thought of that? And that even goes into the thing last year with Spelljammer with the Hadozi, where they drew Hadozi in the book as bards. And they're just like, oh, go ahead.
Oh, so there was an incident where someone in one of my Discord groups was going on a rant about how orcs were racist because they were wearing moccasins. And so I talked to my Métis friend and was like, do you think this is racist? And he was like, why the fuck would I find that racist? That just makes sense for what they'd wear. Like if there are more tribal, people with not like incredible industrialization nature, they'd of course have moccasins for like shoes.
But the thing is, why are we even going into this discussion? I mean, orcs are a
Exactly.
fantasy race. They're, sure, okay, Tolkien, when he did orcs, did base them off of a mixture of Mongolian and Russian soldiers. So, I mean, but, so if I would, if that's the case, then wow, there should be a lot of offended Mongolians and Russians out there who are just going, how dare you, but how do you, I mean, to me, that makes you the biggest racist of all if you are looking at an orc and going, that's a black person. Like, that is the most racist shit, like, ever. And then going back to
say that it's like, if you say that I'm racist because I think that orcs are racist, then that just makes you double racist. And it's like,
Well,
are we children?
apparently we are children. I am rubber, you are glue. Whatever you say bounces off me and sticks to you. That kind of nonsense. Sadly, these words are being thrown around with such wild abandon that they've lost any bite. Somebody calls you a racist. So what? Everybody's calling everybody else a racist. It means nothing.
Racist, pedophile. What's the other one?
Nazi. Don't forget Nazi.
Nazi, yeah.
Well, here's the thing, though, is I think one of the biggest reasons why they're doing it is exactly what's happening right now. We're having a giant discussion on, on this video and getting more, basically still keeping it in the news. So it's like, I think they're kind of in the position of going, no publicity. No publicity is bad publicity, But I don't think they realize that the people that would be standing up and applauding these changes are not going to be the ones that are going to be buying your game.
Exactly. They're pandering to the wrong audience because they're not even your audience.
I think someone once did some type of computer backend stuff looking at this outright surge of people complaining about something. I don't even remember what it was. But they went ahead and looked at it, and when they started looking at IP addresses, it was literally just a small handful of people with many, many, many sock puppet accounts just going nuts.
That sounds about right.
I mean, and not to go too far down the corporate rabbit hole, there is positions, and I'm sure Wizards of the Coast has it, that are specifically designed, for the diversity, the inclusion, that are set up. You've got to do specific actions that can be, documented and turned in, of going, hey, we did this, this, and this to help fight, against all these stuffs. And by doing that, you get a higher score and more. You can get more. What's the term? Angel investors, money investors, and stuff like that, because you could say, look, we are a modern company that is really taking steps to fight a lot of social issues. And at this point, they don't look at the end result. They don't go, okay, did this do anything? All they care about is that you're doing something, anything, So I think that's why they're setting up windmills to joust against.
Yes,
well, they can set up these windmills all they want, but the further they get away from their core audience, they're going to find that the people they're trying to appease aren't going to be coming in to fill those openings.
Exactly.
Like with Hollywood and like their checklist, and like you can tell if there's actually a checklist or if they're actually just like, hiring the best actor that fits the role. Like I was watching the One Piece live action, and it has a very diverse cast, but it's never in your face about it. It's not like Rings of Power where it's like the black person comes on and it's almost like it expects you to cheer. It's like, like Luffy's not white. And I mean, that's pretty fitting given he's like a pirate. I was going to say Caribbean, but I don't even think he's from Earth. So
I've got to throw in that I actually like the actor that did the Black Elf because I liked the way he portrayed the character. I thought it was pretty good.
Oh yeah,
No,
I
I did too. I did too. But Bryce, you're actually talking about the ESG score.
Thank you. That,
yeah.
I couldn't figure it off the top of my head.
Environmental, social, and governance.
Ew.
But
it sounds really icky just listening to it.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though. How different is this than China's what do they call it? Social credit system?
Absolutely no difference whatsoever. The thing is,
I have no idea
that
what that is.
Chinese social credit, if you violate it, you've got governmental act can be taken against you. With ESG, if you got a low ESG score, you're not going to get loans. You're not going to get investments. Other companies aren't going to think. So it's not quite as draconian. But from the corporate point of view, you really want to do what you can to keep your ESG score high. Otherwise, you're not going to get funding coming in. And you'd think that Wizard of the Coast has been around for forever. They wouldn't need to be so reliant on outside funding. But I have absolutely no knowledge of what goes on in their back door or their back rooms.
Yeah, I mean, so Gwen, to give you an example with the Chinese social credit. So let's just say that you did something, an action that the Chinese government felt was
you posted
offensive.
something that they consider offensive.
Suddenly you might find that you no longer can have a bank account. Or
yeah, okay, I've heard of this. I just didn't know what it was called.
Your ability to travel from city to city by train is suddenly restricted.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Canada had a little taste of it last year or the year before.
I know there was I think it was a professional league player, and what someone did was they started spouting anti-Chinese rhetoric in the chat, and that was enough to flag the person who was playing, who was from China, as being against that. And so even though they didn't post anything related to it, they were on something that was spouting that, and so they were suddenly just cut off.
And as a matter of fact, we're probably flagged now also.
Yeah. our
So
social
you cancel your tickets to China, buddy.
Oh
yeah,
no.
oh yeah. Yeah, I'll never be
Darn, and I
go
was
there
really
never.
hoping to get to see the Great Wall of China during my lifetime.
I was off to Beijing next week for just a casual massage and whatever else they do in China. So
No, that's all they do. Just
Casual massages, that's all they do.
no, actually, if I went to China, I'd probably go to eat. Well, maybe. I don't know.
I'm probably going to tell you that Chinese food in China is probably nothing like what you get here as Chinese food.
It's not. Well, even Bryce can attest that most restaurants in San Francisco have the Guaylo menu, and then they have the menu that is way different for those, the Chinese people that live there. So 2 different menus.
apparently someone needs some airtime.
So the last part of my WotC.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no. Well, if you think about it, pop it up. But I just also wanted to talk about. I think their name is Ilya Shikipin. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but they're an artist that have worked with Wizards of the Coast for over 15 years, and it got out somehow that they didn't create all their. Hey, Dave, thank you for joining us. They didn't create all their art through AI. So it wasn't like I went into Midjourney and I typed in, give me a giant with a big club and a crushed human or something. That wasn't it at all. As with most artists these days, what they might do is after they finish a piece of art that they have drawn or whatnot, they will use an AI to go in and fill in the pieces or to help color it or to do things. It's another tool. So, however, Wizards got wind of this alteration to the art, completely flipped out, and is now replacing all this person's art in the game.
Cool.
So that brings us back to the whole discussion that we won't get in here tonight about, AI. Is it right to do? Is it wrong to do? Because I know everyone has their opinions, and that's fine. But considering that it wasn't like he just randomly generated AI images for the book, which is the Big Bees Presents The Glory of the Giants, which is coming out soon. But yeah, not that I care because I've stopped buying their products. But the thing is, I think it's completely unfair just because an artist used the tool in a way that wasn't cheating, and is now getting their name taken from the book. And this is someone who's been doing stuff for WotC for like 14, 15 years now. So that's
people are getting confused lately about the difference between AI and tools. Like, for example, I know that somebody was calling an algorithm an AI, and it's like, that's not AI. That's an algorithm. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I have an answer for that before we get away from this.
Okay.
And strangely enough, Amazon is the one that came up with this answer, and usually they're busy getting it wrong immediately with anything that they try to do right off the bat.
Yeah.
But this time, while they haven't banned AI stuff on Amazon as far as from writers, they've started saying that when you submit stuff, you have to check a box if what you're submitting is AI generated. And they made a distinction by saying it's AI generated if AI does the initial creation. And then even if a human being manipulates it afterwards, it's still AI generated. And they just differentiated that with AI enhanced, where a human being created something and then an AI tool modifies it in some way. They say, you don't have to tell us if it's AI enhanced. You do have to tell us if it's AI generated.
Like using Grammarly to fix up your work as opposed to using ChatGPT to write your work.
Exactly, and that's one of the things that I use. I use Grammarly for that, and so I don't have to report it.
Yeah. Oh God, like my writing would look like a 5-year-old did it if I didn't have Grammarly. So it is.
I hated Grammarly.
I only use part of Grammarly. I only use the correctness part, and I ignore the rest because most of the stuff I care about is in that one section, and it's pretty quick to go through.
Well, yeah, and also as a writer, Grammarly will go through your stuff and basically neuter it to make it sound a certain way. And as a writer, you want your work to, So no, I completely get that. But
there's also
I look for commas, I look for misspellings, I look for missed hyphenations, and that's it, pretty much.
With being Canadian, there's an issue that I've noticed since becoming an English major, and that is that a lot of programs don't understand Canadian language, because like we're kind of in the weird ballpark of like being half European and half American with the way that we like spell stuff and type stuff. Like if you go pure European, it's just like there is no Z's, it's all replaced with S's, or Z's I should say, are replaced with S's. And then if you go American, you don't have your OU, my armor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Labor. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get it. But it's I think we're in for a ride, especially, and I don't know what the ruling was, but even with the writer's strike, there was some things put into the new contract that
no AI generated content.
No AI generated content, and no, like basically we're probably going to see a fade in the whole sensitivity writers in shows, because I think they've also reduced the number of writers that can, like, there has to be some criteria to your writers, and I don't know the whole thing on that.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, so, but we will see. All right. Well, I think 20, well, actually, close to 30 minutes of yelling about.
See how much time you've spent yelling at the clouds, young man.
All right. So let's get to our new segment and our new bumper for that new segment. See, no more Amsterdam sex shops. It's
So violent.
I know. Well, geez, and the skulls were complete racism. So yeah.
All the skulls were white. Oh my gosh!
I know. Anyway, before we go down that road, just going around the corner, actually, Bryce, Terry, and I will be able to report back on the same thing on this weekend gaming, I think. So on Friday night, my usual group, which Mike couldn't make it, because GM Mike is our GM for Friday nights doing
Spelljammer.
Yep. We did a one shot on Roll20, so we played Dragonbane, the game that I had. I know Terry's gonna go run and grab off the shelf. A game that we both got the Kickstarter for, and I was fascinated about because you can play ducks as a player character race. But it was actually a pretty amazing system. It was a roll under, so not roll over. It's D20 based. The game master never really has to roll dice against with opponents, and I'll explain that in a second. And you don't really have modifiers. You just have what they call banes and boons, which is basically advantage, disadvantage. And then you also have dragons, which are a 1, which can do really fantastic things. Think of it as a critical. And 20, which is a demon, which can make all kinds of chaos happen once you do it. But just quickly, so Terry, Bryce, I know we talked about this after the stream. Oh, not the stream, but the show. Why am I calling it a show? The game we did on Friday.
Yeah.
Everything's a show. What were your thoughts on it?
Oh, go ahead.
Eternal Torches rule. Monsters that hit every time without even needing to roll suck.
All right, Bryce.
Oh yeah, I loved it. It was a really great simple system. So you could just you only takes a tiny bit to get set up to play on that, and also just from a pure reader standpoint, the rule book and the artwork in the rule book is just phenomenal. It really hits if you like the 70s style fantasy. You know, it had a very Scandinavian Nordic feel about it. The art was fantastic and fun to play.
Who plays a duck?
Oh hell yeah! Who
Bryce played the duck.
Oh, that's right. You played the Makander of something or other.
And he had the amazing power to yell at people and convince them to do things. It was amazing.
But what they're talking about with the so in combat, the initiative is everyone draws a card from 1 to 10. A lower card can actually ask to go later, so basically steal a card even from the monster. So if someone has a 1 but they have something they need to do later on in the round, like I think it also, one of the things that we didn't use that initiative system for was you probably could have used it a lot more for teamwork, like going, all right, here's what we're going to do, so we're gonna switch our initiative up so XYZ can happen. But once the monster's turn comes up, I roll a d6. Okay, so I do roll, I lied, but I don't have to roll to hit. Everything on that chart for the d6 automatically happens. So it could be they swing at you, they cast a spell on you, they cause fear on you, and fear was horrible because fear kept zapping everyone down to. So one of the features is besides your stats, you have conditions, and like dazed and exhausted and all this other stuff that represent each of the things. So a lot of the things like a banshee's yell may not do damage, but it may actually cause fear, and then fear will have you do stuff, and then it'll also cause a condition. Once you get a condition on that attribute, you now have to roll everything associated with the attribute with disadvantage. 2d20s take the higher because remember it's a roll under system, but it's pretty brutal. So you really want to take out the monster very quickly, and the only way to do that is kind of really as a group figure out how you're going to play the initiative and get to that monster. But this was a demo scenario, and the monsters are really high up there, so they got 2 actions per round, which was also really nasty. And they were just like tossing the player characters. We thought it was going to be a TPK, but luckily they managed to grab their fallen companions and get out.
I honestly expected the monster to clean house, and I thought I might be able to escape with the crown and be the only survivor.
Well, that is the greedy halfling for you.
You know, it's a halfling thief. You know, this was in character.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I have heard of a similar system to this, but I can't remember where. But I do remember having the roll under and having a dice roll to see what the monster does, as opposed to like actually choosing.
Yeah, I know that there's a few roll under systems. Well, the 2d20 system for Conan is roll under.
I haven't played that, so it's not that one.
Okay. Alternity was roll under, and I think there's another one that was roll under. But yeah, it's a different feel, and especially when you're playing the game with dice and your dice have kind of been trained to roll high. Not that you can really train dice. It really sucks because then you're just missing all over the place. So,
well, it's
gotta use those bad dice that you've like banished the Shadow Realm.
Well, it's. I wonder if they have farmed out the. You can tell I come from a video game background. The engine, for lack of a better term, to another game, or if they're using somebody else's engine on that. The whole, because I mean, it was really well oiled, and you know you didn't have a lot of. There was not too much, fumbling through the rule books of going, okay, how do we do this? Once you've gone through 1 or 2 turns, you pretty much have it down for the rest of the game.
Well, that's the one thing about Free League Publishing's games, and I don't want to stick to because I want to ask Gwen what she did this week in gaming so we can get on to their topics. But like, for example, Terry played Alien with me a couple of years ago.
Yep.
And they just really hit the ball out of the park with the way that system works, because the mechanics not only like back up the fact that it's horror, things can go wrong, but there's mechanics built into it that basically cause you to panic and mess things up further, which eventually going to get you or someone else killed. But it's done in such a way that it really just blends nicely. It's not something where it's like, all right, well, now I got to concentrate on another mechanic. It's just done with the dice that you normally roll, except now that you're rolling stress along with your regular dice, and your stress dice keep going up and up and up and up to the point where almost everything you do. So there was, in that game with Terry, Oscar, who was one of the pilots, had so much stress on him that he basically ended up driving the escape ship that everyone was supposed to get on into the side of the larger ship and blew himself up.
Oh God!
Yeah,
that is just so perfect for that. That's like movie perfect.
And that's before the what do they call them? The one that's the fake human, the manufactured human.
The android, yeah.
The android killed everybody, arranged our deaths, and we all died.
Also very movie perfect.
But the thing is that it wasn't something that I, as the game master, had to say, all right, I need these things to happen, so I have to kind of fudge things to make it happen. The rules are designed in such a way that the players are going to automatically do this stuff without the game master's help. The game master is just refereeing the destruction and death that is ultimately going to happen in the game. So it is definitely something. We should do another Alien. Actually, there's a lot of games we should do again. We still need to finish the Stargate game. I'd love to do another Alien game. So that's maybe during the winter when we're more boarded in the house for things. So, but anyway, Gwen, now that we've done talking for God knows how long on what we did, is there anything that you've done in gaming over the past week?
Yeah, so I think I talked about this before. I've been fiddling around with like a pirate campaign for I don't know how long. And I eventually kind of left it and then moved on to Shadowrun, but then like none of my friends were really like biting into Shadowrun at all. Like I, pitched the idea and I didn't get any word back from anybody about like what they wanted or what they were thinking of doing or anything like that. So I was like, okay, that's kind of a dead in the water thing. And so I went back to the pirate idea, and this time I was like, well, why don't I just look at Starfinder and see like how well that could work as a pirate game? And apparently it works perfectly well, except it's in space instead of like, over the seas. And originally when I was first thinking of doing the pirate game, that was something that I just wasn't willing to like compromise on because I wanted it to be in the ocean. But after reading through a lot of Starfinder lore and a lot of the books from like a DM perspective instead of from a player perspective, I became a lot more interested in that idea. And so I have been just kind of like fiddling for the past couple days on like a new, completely different campaign than what I was originally planning, but still pirates, set in space, and dealing with different factions and dealing with different like how the players would progress, how it would start, and stuff like that. And like, I only have a few handfuls of like scenes in there that I've figured out, but I've got my 2 events, one at the start, one in the middle.
So if I may make a suggestion, and that's actually a good leeway to bring ourselves into talking about Starfinder, because that was one of the things you wanted to talk about, is look at a book that was published by Green Ronin called Freeport.
You mean Green Ronin?
Huh?
Green
yeah.
Ronin?
Well, Green Ronin, or they pronounce it actually Green Ronin.
Oh, so, really? That's weird.
Yeah, which so I just kind of parrot what the people who run the company call it, but I called it Green Ronin for years because that's how you say Ronin. Yeah. But anyway, Freeport is a supplement.
I do have Freeport.
Oh, you do? Perfect, because
I don't know, didn't really like the rules in it and whatever, and just kind of found it like I liked some of the rules, and I definitely liked a lot of the classes, and I even played the noble class basically at one point, and that was a lot of silly fun as my character was like basically useless, but they were like the skill monkey, and they also had their best friend.
But the great thing about that book, though, is there's a lot of stuff you can steal from it. Like, just take out the classes in that first part of the book, all the game master advice and all the tables and stuff that are in it are just perfect for use in a pirate game. So that's all I was going to say.
Even if it's in space?
What's that?
Even if it's in space?
Yeah. I mean, oh, God. Well, I'm trying to think of what...
Because I never looked at those tables, because I only ever looked at it from a player's perspective. But yeah, I'll check it out, because I do have it.
All you have to do... I mean, honestly, I know this is a very sad joke, especially amongst most people I know, but realistically, all you have to do is add the word space before anything, and it immediately becomes science fiction. So,
Space Australia.
Yeah, or space gun, or space cat, or space hamster. I mean, just put... Yeah. Space car. Oh, that doesn't sound right. But anyway, just put... I don't know, Terry, what are your thoughts, science fiction writer? Put space in front of it and it's immediately science fiction?
Well, there's Space Marines. Obviously, that's what happens right there.
All right. So, Starfinder, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about what Paizo's doing with Starfinder.
Yeah. So, a while ago, like I think not a year ago, but like several months ago, they announced Starfinder Enhanced, and it was going to be a rework of 4 classes within base Starfinder, which was Solarian, Technomancer, Witch Warper, and Envoy. And it also included 90 new feats, and like a bunch of new race options and altered ship combat rules. And this book isn't out yet. It's out in about a week and a half from now. So I haven't seen it, but I have seen Maple Table's like preview of it, which goes over a lot of which goes over the two classes. ADHD just decided to leave my head. But it goes over the Technomancer and it goes over Witch Warper. And I definitely like what I have seen, although at first I had like a funny moment because in the preview, you know how in like Pathfinder and like 3.5 and Starfinder, it shows like the class breakdown at the start that shows like their base attack bonus, their will saves, class progression, and spells. Well, when it showed Technomancer and then later on Witch Warper, it didn't have the like spells column. And so I was like, oh my god, are they making like Technomancer not a spellcaster? Like that'd be a bold move. And I was almost like really intrigued by it. It's just like, wow, imagine like, you know, tech mage, but without the spellcasting. And then I realized, oh no, they just didn't actually put the spell progression chart in the thing. They still have spells. But yeah, it looked interesting from what I saw, and it kind of gave me an idea of what the other two classes are likely going to look like, because it shows off that they are not. It's like Unchained from Pathfinder First Edition, where that's
what it sounds like.
Yeah,
yep.
It's not a complete overhaul of the class. It's actually looked like it was less of an overhaul to the class than even Unchained was, because Unchained varied from like a slight adjustment, like Rogue getting dexterity to damage, and then like Monk was completely overhauled. But both of these classes just looked like they were enhanced. You just got like a few more abilities. Few abilities got like a little bit of adjustments, and they felt like they had more of a foundation of what people wanted to do. Like it was almost like they now had that hindsight of like, okay, this is what players have been trying to do with Witch Orb or trying to do with Technomancer. So let's make that more of a reality. And so they've made Technomancer have a bunch of abilities that help with combat, but they've also made a bunch of abilities that help with like spellcasting. Like you can buff. They're almost like Sorcerer from 5e. They like buff their spells with like not quite meta magic, but like a different kind of ability where they like almost tamper into someone else's magic, whether it's enhancing it or debuffing it if it's an enemy. And then Witch Warper has they actually got like a very minor adjustment to one of their abilities, but that adjustment was like huge, and it was just simply adding like another sentence to both of like with two abilities. They also got a bunch of other stuff, but
is this book going to do it? So I guess one of my biggest questions is this book going to do anything to combat it all? So here was my hope, but then I wouldn't be thinking in money terms if this was the case, because my hope was that they would release a supplement that would introduce some elements of basically Pathfinder 2 play into it, like, you know, showing you how to do things with 3 actions, things like that. So yeah, because they're going to wait till 2nd edition comes out, and that's when they're going to do it.
They specifically stated for Starfinder Enhanced Edition that they would not be adding a 3-action economy. They would not be trying to meddle Starfinder's base with anything from Pathfinder 2nd Edition. It's solely its own edition, and it's trying to complement what Starfinder First Edition is doing in its action economy, and like kind of playing more with the action economy, because one of the big issues with a lot of the classes that were mentioned is that they didn't really have a lot of ways of manipulating the action economy, but now they kind of do.
So here's the challenge I have, and this goes back to Pathfinder 2, is so we know that there is going to be, Terry, what's the new version called? Pathfinder?
I'm not sure that they're really calling it a new version name. It's the one that complies with the Orc license as opposed to being part of the OGL.
Pathfinder 2nd Edition Remastered or something.
Yeah, that's
like
it. Remastered. Yeah. That's correct. That's what it is.
But so here's the problem: is that a lot of us now. I haven't gone too far down the rabbit hole with Pathfinder, unlike Terry. Cough, cough.
What?
But the thing is that one, that's going to really kind of make the current Pathfinder second edition stuff obsolete, because they're going to be moving to, it's not like they just said, all right, well, now we have this multiverse of games that you can play if you want to because even though they say, yeah, you can play Pathfinder first edition, no one ever does.
Rise.
Then you have Pathfinder second edition, which is kind of what the standard is now. But now let's say if you're adding this other thing in there, you have 3 different sets, and that they're going to just develop everything going forward with that reimagined, or whatever they're calling it, rule set. So if you own... Yep.
I can interrupt because I actually have seen the new book, as I work for Eldritch Osiris Games, and so we did have access to the book earlier, although I cannot share anything specific from it.
Okay.
But what it looks like is a lot like Unchained from Pathfinder First Edition, kind of, in that you can, as a GM, say, okay, this is what we're allowing from... It's almost like the reverse. Like, this is what we're allowing from the old Pathfinder Second Edition. And it's all compatible, in a way.
And it's all going to be, everything's going to be on the archives of Nethys, so
yeah,
you'll be able to figure out how it all works together.
But I'm hoping that, say, with Foundry, that they're kind and do the whole thing where they give you the rule set for free. But if you're on Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds, you had to spend money on having those books. Like, and they always charge like $10 over what you would spend on the book. Because it's a VTT version. So if you just went out and said, all right, I'm going to go crazy, I'm going to buy all this like Pathfinder 2 stuff, and then suddenly if they're publishing all the new stuff in Pathfinder Remastered or 2 Remastered, whatever, then you're kind of screwed, because if you want to run this new module, it's going to be incompatible, at least on the VTT end of things. I mean,
the VTT end of things, kind of.
I think you're going to run into less problems with that than you think right now.
Yeah, you're going to run less problems with that than you think. The only thing is that I can see some issues. Again, I can't talk about anything specific, which is driving me nuts. But
one more month, you could talk about it on November 15th. That's right. Come on, November 15th.
I'm trying to remember if some of this was actually talked about. I'm pretty sure it was, but for my own safety, I'm not going to talk about it.
Okay.
But yeah, there's just like, from a VTT's perspective, I'm not entirely sure. It feels like a lot of the adjustments will just be like a toggle. Because a lot of them are just like very, almost more like name changes, or instead of doing this type of damage, you're now doing this type of damage.
I saw a document that was, maybe it was on one of the blogs at Paizo, where it was like, this is changing to this name, this name, this name, this name, this name, this name. I've seen a document like that.
Yeah, there's a damage type that's been changed, and I think it's a really cool change. I think it's a very fitting change, and I think it definitely buffs that specific type of damage. Which will be very interesting to see in play.
And you can almost count on, probably sometime in early December, I'm making a guess there, that there's going to be a Humble Bundle with the PDF for the new rule set in it. Just mark my words.
Yeah, I hope that that's the case. I mean, like I said, as far as it goes with Starfinder itself, I like it. It's fun. I'm not saying I've ran it before. It plays pretty well. I think it's a lot better balanced than Pathfinder First Edition, or
very much so.
Or any, but on the other hand, it's just like, I guess things can't last forever. I mean, even AD&D First Edition had to have a second edition and a third edition and a fourth edition.
Which kind of brings me to the next point, which is Pathfinder Second Edition was announced, and I'm kind of mixed on it. I really like Pathfinder First Edition from the bit I played of it, because it's very it's a more balanced version of Pathfinder First Edition, but in space. It's like my friends and I were playing it, and we actually found combat encounters required you to think more because you couldn't just rely on one-shotting an enemy. You had to actually like think tactically. If something could fly, you had to figure out how to deal with that. Usually you had guns, but in our case we had like 2 melee characters, myself included, and so we're like, well, bring it down, and then I can hit it. And it was a lot of fun, and it definitely was a different vibe than Pathfinder First Edition's thing of, again, just one-shotting things. But after seeing some of the art and seeing some of the like people talking about the system a bit, it's definitely got my interest a bit more. I still don't think I'll be able to convert my friends over to it, and I am worried about a few systems that are unique to Starfinder that I feel like aren't going to be translated to second edition or not translated as well. But if they are, that'll be really great. Like starships, for example, I don't know how they're going to do that in second edition, or like mechs, will they have to do that over again?
I
And
guess we're gonna have to find out. I mean, I'm not as excited about it just because I don't particularly play the game all that often, and like I said, I'm always on the hunt for the space game that's going to like win me over. But but it's all good, and definitely for those who do play Pathfinder and like Starfinder and like yourself, who is actually building a campaign around it.
I'm definitely not going to wait for Starfinder Second Edition to come out before I run my campaign. I quite like First Edition. One thing I am excited about for the remaster or the enhanced version is they are adjusting starship combat rules, and I'm not entirely sure how, but I do know that a lot of people have complained about the starship combat. My group, we personally loved it because we had a lot of back and forth and talking and strategizing, and it was like a very unique experience for a tabletop game. Like, we'd never experienced anything like that, and we all loved it. So I'm very curious if they're going to just be like dumbing it down a lot and just making it very simple, or if they're going to go for just like a different angle but still making it like that same cooperative experience.
One thing I noticed with the remastered going forward, it's not really the remastered, but using VTTs with Pathfinder 2, is they've really started doing things like including all the APs that are coming out, the Adventure Pass, they're getting VTT modules. And I just saw just the other day that they're doing like a deluxe season thing for the Pathfinder Society issues that come out monthly or so. So like 20 of them are going to be included in a VTT altogether.
That'll be good.
For those folks that are doing the tournament play, it certainly will.
Oh, yeah. And second edition, I had something else that I had to talk about, but I forget what it was. And I think it was just, it'll apparently be compatible with Pathfinder Second Edition, and you could like port over races and classes from Pathfinder Second Edition over to Starfinder and vice versa. And I remember the guy saying, like, GM permitting, of course.
It's like my D&D campaign where I brought Klingons as a race in.
That's just the Vesk.
All right, so let us move on to our final segment of the evening for tonight, which is going to be Kickstarters. Yay, Woo. Kickstarter! So
I better have a bumper. Where's my bumper?
I don't know.
All these new bumpers and no bumper for me.
Yeah. Here, we'll play a promotional bumper though.
I feel better now.
Why looks like a V?
Yeah. All right. So Terry, what do you have for us?
Ooh. Oh, hell yeah.
Paranoia, the perfect edition, came in yesterday.
Nice.
So I've got their brand new core book. I've got the Accomplice Handbook, and of course, the Game Master screen with, the red lasers and art in there.
Oh, yeah.
Paranoia puppet strings.
Is that a module?
It is, what is this? This is, I think it's more like NPCs, writing up NPCs that you have.
Okay.
That's what it looks like to me. You've got the trader deck, treason card decks,
Oh, I heard they put cards in this new version.
and computer dice, because everyone needs computer dice.
Nice.
Now, it's been a long time since I've played Paranoia, and I got this mostly for nostalgia because Paranoia is fun. Admit
Yeah,
it.
it is.
It's a lot of fun. It really subverts some of the tropes of role playing, because most role playing experiences is building teamwork, whereas Paranoia is more like you're pretending that you're doing teamwork while you're busy plotting the deaths of your friends. And so while I was signing up for all of that, I went ahead and ordered some of their previous edition stuff.
Oh, wow.
Paranoia.
Is that the Army edition, the XP edition?
It's the previous version, whatever it was. I don't know.
Yeah, there was that one that. Oh, the yellow
Coins?
black box blues. I have all the editions of those, with the exception of the last edition.
Wow.
Wow.
Damn, you got everything.
I know, right?
I went kind of berserk. I will admit it.
How much did this cost you?
I don't remember, but a lot.
He's on restriction now.
And of course,
the Game
the
Master.
original Game Master screen. And you're right, there are
Nice.
card decks. There are.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how that system plays. Because I know the last edition, before the one that was after XP, I backed that Kickstarter, but the game itself wasn't that much fun to play.
I like this perfectly safe gear. What could possibly go wrong? And more dice, because dice are fun.
I do remember first edition had one of the greatest editions packs. It was basically, and no other game it would work for, but for Paranoia it was perfect. It was a form pack. It was a group of different forms you could fill out in-game in triplicate. And you bought it, you had this whole thing, and you just the Game Master could say, okay, your job is give those to the troubleshooters and then make sure that they fill it out exactly. But hold on to it, give them a copy back of their thing, just so that later on the adventure, you could pull that form out and go, you filled it out this way, when you're trying to explain why you were the only surviving member of this mission.
That's, I think, one of the wonderful things about the game is that, one, it is the most perfect one-shot. It is, it's incredibly fun. It's a game where you just want to start losing your clones just to kind of see, what goes on and what's happening. Or it's kind of a way that you can push the envelope with a character and suffer the consequences, but still be able to carry on as the same character at least 6 times. So
I remember one game that we played of it where I had just the most amazing luck and rolls and bullshit coming out of my mouth talking, and I only died once. I almost made it through the entire game without dying. I was like, yes, it's like 300 in bowling. I'm going to do it.
So we definitely have to put that in the list of games.
I'll run it. I used to run. I actually ran a short-lived, but it was an actual Paranoia campaign.
Oh wow!
But it didn't die because of the players dying. It died just because the players had to move along. So I'm really interested to see how this new version plays.
Yeah, well, we could, like I said, starting in the winter, I want to start doing Infinite Odysseys again. So basically the live stream RPGs. So we can put Paranoia on that list, because I've on it's been years. Like I have the first edition box set. My wife
Oh,
Mary has the second edition
that's
box set.
perfect. That first edition for me is always the. What is the name? John Holland. What's the first name?
Oh god, I'll look it up because I'm just too lazy to go back and look at it. But,
Yeah, we don't need to know exactly. But I remember back in the old Google Plus days, I was in touch with Alan Varney. We used to talk to them quite a bit.
Oh
They
wow.
always referred to him as the one true paranoia artist. And now that he isn't doing too much stuff anymore, it's going. It just doesn't seem like paranoia without his art in the game.
So you're talking about doing this live stream, James. You're also talking about doing a live stream of Kingmaker. That's going to take you 6 years to finish running.
Yeah, well, that's going to have to be parsed out because I've already learned that the worst thing you could do to me is put me on a long campaign, and then I get really frustrated with it and hate it and never ever want to do it again. So that's oh what?
Oh no! Go ahead and finish your thought.
Oh no, I thought you figured out the name.
No. I call it. I know it. The thing is that his artwork is everywhere. But just a side note, that someone pointed this out to me. I don't know who. Otherwise, I give him credit. But he says, if you ever wanted to play a Warhammer 40,000 campaign, but not Space Marines or everything else, just life in the Hive cities, that sort of thing. He says the paranoia rule set works perfectly to play that life in a hive city type thing, because you have every single thing that you have in paranoia. You've got the Imperium instead of the internal security. You've got the Inquisition. Instead of the.
That's totally true.
Yeah, I was just blown away by that because going, dude, that would totally work.
Yeah. So according to this, the first edition was written by Dan Gilbert, Greg Kostikian, and Eric Goldberg. But there's a name John something. Maybe it's second edition. Let me look for second edition.
Oh, I think I've got the name here. The thing is, you always see the artwork. I didn't realize of how much he did. A couple of Dragon magazine covers. Artist for Paranoia RPG. Jim Holloway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because but there's a John like a writer, but I can't think of the name now. Who wrote? Because it was the same. It was one of the same writers who did, who also worked on the Star Wars D6 RPG. Because it was all West End games.
You're talking about, yeah, that's when West End had the license for it.
Let's see. Huh. Well, now it's giving me a list of people here. Steve Martini, John Lescroa, but that's not the name I'm thinking about. See, actually, I got to know the second wave, or maybe the third wave of West End Games people. Actually, Jen Seidler, who was an editor for them in their second or third wave, is a good friend and actually has done some editing for me in the past on some of my projects. But yeah, I missed all the West End, like Ghostbusters was awesome.
Oh, if you ever Ghostbusters,
the original Ghostbusters D6, I still got my box set. I ran it a couple of years back too at a convention. People just loved it. Yeah, Star Wars D6 is one of my favorites of all the Star Wars games.
Yes, 100%. I agree with you 100% on that one.
Paranoia. What else? Okay, I know that we're stretching this, but I just want to look one more thing and then we'll call it. But I want to see what other games did West End Games do?
Oh God, I do remember Ghostbusters. I actually that was one of those games that I also bought way too many of during the 80s when I didn't have that good of a job.
Let's see here. Noble Knight is, I think. showing me stuff. So obviously start. Oh, that's right. They did that Master System D6 where they had Tank Girl, Tales from the Crypt. They also did Torg.
Oh, Torg! Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
God, that game was a trip. I only played it once, but it was that was a reader, definitely a reader, but it was a fun reader.
Yeah, they did the Hercules and Xena role-playing game. They did the DC Universe role-playing game. Although I thought Mayfair did that. Oh, no, wait. They did that funky one. Yeah, that was basically a D6 system. And then Blood Shadows, it looks like, was another one in there. Oh, Price of Freedom and Shatter Zone. All right, I didn't know they did those games. But anyway, with that said, let us go ahead and wrap up. So all right. So anyway, well, again, I didn't do our shilling. Let me shill. I'll do it really quick. All right, give us money, Patreon. Give us money, buy our merch over at Teespring. Give us money, buy us a coffee. Support Solarian Games, they're really cool. Support Chapter 13 Press, they're really cool. And those are my call outs. So Terry, any last parting words?
This will shock everyone, but go to Amazon and buy my books.
All right, Gwen, anything?
Check out Simply PF2E. Check out Eldritch Osiris Games. Yeah.
All right, and Bryce, any words of wisdom to end this stream with?
Nope, no words of wisdom whatsoever.
All right. Well, with that said, have a good night, and we'll see you next week. Hopefully, I'll have GM Mike back.
Oh,
Adios. Yeah. Yeah. Who? All right. Here we go.